In the past year, a new trend in the crypto world has boomed. NFTs. They started as a way for digital artists to have ownership over their work, but have transformed into a dizzying new multi-billion-dollar marketplace. So are they really worth the hype? And what's behind this latest craze? And that is the question to ask. So there's this really super strange stuff happening online right now that I need to tell you all about. Let's first look at this tweet. The first ever tweet in the history of Twitter. This tweet was by Jack Dorsey. He's one of the co-founders of Twitter himself. And can you believe this tweet was somehow just purchased for $2,915,835.47. Can you imagine? And it's not just a tweet. A single JPEG was sold for $69 million. And the NBA sold its little basketball games for hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's right. If you're going to see this GIF, this moment was issued as one-of-a-kind fleeting moment in the history of sports on the NBA Top Shot site. So there are three simple letters that you need to understand what's going on, and those letters are NFTs. Why would you want to pay for an NFT when you can just look it up for free? Everybody can ask that question, right? So this story is much bigger than a $600,000 cat gift. It's a story about human psychology and how the way we value things is shifting because of technology. A technology that people think may revolutionize our society while at the same time accelerating a climate disaster. So it's really nuts and everything's happening at the same time and all of these things together. So I want to get these things straight here to understand what is this all about. And for this reason, to answer your questions of what is an NFT, it's very simple. It's a non-fungible token. That's it. End of the video. Just kidding. Can you really earn money by selling photos as an NFT? How do I buy one? Why would I want to buy a digital file that I can just copy in a second? Is it just another bubble? And very importantly, is it Islamically even allowed to do so? So I was able to get my hands on someone who is currently into NFTs himself, and being a digital and traditional artist understands how the process works. So he is an independent music, rap, and spoken word artist from London who focuses on spirituality, social justice, and racism by telling stories of immigration, the harsh reality of the world that we live in, empowerment for people of color, and the downtrodden aspects of society. And I personally admire his work and his approach and his creativity from quite a couple of years. And without much further ado, I would like to welcome him, Brother Ibrahim Sincere, on board.
For me, this brand is about pride in who I am and where I come from. We came here as immigrants. I was 1 year old. We moved around for a bit and ended up in a council estate. It's where I grew up. And even though they knocked down the old blocks and built new ones, I still got love for this place. So now, I'm just trying to build right here. I've spent years building, studying, grafting, creating. And I just gotta keep going until I become an asset to myself, to my community, and to my family.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome Ibrahim on board.
Walaikum salam, Sister Sakina. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure and honor to have you. Thank you so much for joining me on Youth Matters and for taking out your precious time. And of course, the topic is very evident, and it's something that the youths are really, digging into right now, really investing themselves into right now. And I thought that, it would be an excellent platform for you to share your journey as well, since you are involved into NFTs as well. So first and foremost, my question to you would be that, how did you start your journey as an artist?
So for me personally, in terms of like drawing, sketching, painting, things like that. I've been doing that for as long as I can remember being able to hold a pencil. My mum is like quite creative. She always like sort of used to like to draw things. And she definitely sat with me when I was really young and sort of trained me and showed me how to use a pencil. My older brothers have always sort of been into art as well. So growing up, it was just like always around me, and it's something that I was always passionate about and intrigued by.
Yeah, I can understand. I mean, it always starts from home. Like, you see people around you who inspire you. Sometimes it's something that's something which is like innate within you. Like, there are these traits that you get from, your family members. So yeah, that comes into the story as well. Now, can you tell everybody what are NFTs, and can you break it down to how it actually works?
Sure. Yeah, I'll try my best. So NFTs are they're digital assets that work similar to the way that cryptocurrencies work, in that it's almost it's a token or of an entity that lives on the public ledger, which they call the blockchain. And the blockchain is pretty much sort of the network or the platform that facilitates trading and buying of cryptocurrencies, but also now NFTs. So, in short, they're digital assets. So that can be images, MP3, MP4 format files, like 3D models, anything, and they become tokens on the blockchain, and that allows sort of the a way to establish, which address owns which asset. Yeah.
So, is there a difference like between blockchain and cryptocurrency and NFT? Are they like different, or are they?
No. So cryptocurrencies and NFTs, they work on the blockchain. So the blockchain is sort of like the network that facilitates the trading of those between different. So if you open what you would call a wallet, then you have a unique address that lives on the blockchain, and then that address can hold assets, and it can send and receive assets as well. So it can hold assets that are in the form of NFTs, which link to the image or the file that is actually being traded, or it can hold specific cryptocurrencies, and then everything is on a public ledger. So the assets held by each address is available. You can see it publicly, and any transaction which occurs on the blockchain can be viewed publicly.
Thanks for answering that. I asked that question because there are a lot of people who have that doubt in their minds. Like, they don't really get it because the concept is still very fresh and evolving. And so for the viewers to understand better, it was good to break it down. And I think it's much clearer the way you explained it. So now, can you tell everybody, how did you get into selling your digital works via NFT, and how has the response been for yourself so far? And we can also show your digital artworks right now as we speak. Also including the work of your hats. I saw it. It's really amazing. If you can also talk a little about on that.
Sure, yeah. So I've sort of gotten into trying to put my artwork out there in the form of NFTs and sell my artwork in the form of NFTs. Pretty much this year, really. I've been into cryptocurrencies for quite a few years now, but I sort of saw the value in artists owning their work and having ownership over the sale of their work through NFTs. One, because you sort of skip a lot of the barriers that many traditional art galleries have a lot of the time. It's an accessible form for all artists to showcase and to sell their work. And also for owners of many other digital assets, but obviously I'm specifically speaking about the art aspect of it. So, like for example, when you sell your work, you can set the royalties that you want for it forever. So, let's say, for example, right, an artist today, they sell a painting for $500, and it gets picked up by somebody who works in an art gallery, and he has an eye for, like the sort of art that is eye catching. He can buy it for $500 and own it completely, put it up in an art gallery or a museum, and sell for $1 million, and the original artist only made $500 out of it. Like, they might get some, indirect fame off the back of it, a few years down the line, or the next work that they sell may become more higher value because of that. But from that, that artwork itself, they only made that $500. With NFTs, you can set the royalties that you will make from it forever. So if I was to set the royalties at 25%, then it means I sell it once, and then every time it gets sold on, I will always get 25% of the sale value. So I was really interested in the sort of, the autonomy that it provides to us as artists, and that, that aspect of ownership and control. So I started with a small collection just to, like, understand a little bit more about how it works, get into the space, see what's out there. That collection I didn't promote that much. I promoted it a little bit. It's pretty much sort of a collection which depicts, like people from London, people from, like London urban culture, but depicted in, futuristic environments, because a lot of the times you don't sort of see that sort of that like paradox of different worlds sort of colliding and coming together. But you mentioned the hats. So the hats came about. It's not an NFT collection yet. At the moment, it's like, there's a digital artwork that's out there, but I plan to sort of transform it and develop it into not only an NFT collection, but into sort of a wider array of, research into the hats that are worn by Muslim communities around the world. So I did a small illustration that had, like the kofia, which we wear in East Africa. It had various other hats as well. It had the pakol, which they wear in South Asia. It had, what I call the universal, which is like the most simple sort of white, knitted kufi that you would see. It had the tarbush or the fez, which caused a lot of controversy because I mislabeled it as Turkey, but it's actually, there's a lot of research about the history of the fez, the tarbush. It's like the red cone-shaped hat with a black tassel on top, and a lot of Moroccans were very upset that I labeled it as Turkey. But in fact, the history of that hat, there are like conflicting traditions about where it came from. There are a lot of sources that say Morocco, but also some sources that say, it's like Balkan, Greek, Mediterranean. So there's, yeah. So that came about because I was thinking about, the cultural wear that we have in our communities, and how for us growing up in the West, we don't really adopt it as much. So like the kofia, which I was speaking about, which you will see all over East Africa, Somalia, Zanzibar, Mombasa, Dar es Salaam, anywhere you would see it, right? But here in the West, us as youth, we don't really wear it that much. We associate it with the elders. We believe it to be something that the elders wear, and that, represents sort of their honor and status. But in our home countries, everybody wears it, of all ages, right? So as we get older and we see the elders passing away, you realize that they're taking a lot of history and culture with them that may die out here in the West if we don't inherit it and we don't make a conscious effort to sort of make sure that it continues. So I just did a short illustration of the different hats. That was the inspiration. It was the kafia. So I started with that, and then I started thinking about the other hats that people wear in other, parts of the Muslim communities in the Muslim world. And I just did an illustration. I put it online with some reflections about why I did the illustration and what I was thinking about in terms of the hats and stuff like that. And then it just blew up online. I didn't expect that many people to connect with it. I didn't expect like so many people to sort of be interested by it, just to like the illustrations, but also loads of people were sharing images of their grandparents, of their ancestors wearing different hats. Some people were sharing images of the actual collections of hats that they have, that they've picked up over the years and through their travels. So it was amazing. So I realized that a lot of people are interested in this, and it could be developed into something wider. It could be like a handbook. There's a couple of articles that I'm working on for a couple of different outlets where I go into more detail about the history and whatnot of the hats as well. But then also NFTs for me and myself, because it started off as a piece of art, and I enjoyed making that piece of art. I could, yeah, definitely plan to make it into a collection where I depict each of the hats individually, and yeah.
Yeah, I actually agree with you, especially the part where you said that, as our ancestors are, now aging and all of that. So, they're taking those traditions with them. And especially in the West, yes, we don't see much of that culture, still being preserved much. So I think you're doing great. Like over here, for example, in, Dar es Salaam, in Zanzibar, and all these places, we see, all these people, even young kids, when they go to this madrasa and stuff, they're wearing those hats and everything. So depends country to country and place to place and location and all of that. So yeah, it's a good way that you're sort of reviving that culture. It's really nice the way you're doing it. Now here's a question. Okay, I'm sure all the viewers would want to ask: why would I want to buy a digital file if I can simply copy it?
Yeah, a lot of people ask that question, and I think there's a simple answer. So today you can find somebody who's really good at painting, like really really good at painting, and get them to make an exact copy of the Mona Lisa or a Da Vinci painting or a Picasso painting or a Vincent van Gogh painting, right? They can make an exact copy of it, but it's never going to have the same value just because it looks the same, because it's not the original version and it's not authentic to the person who created it, right? So really it's the same thing, because when we create art digitally, like when we create it on the laptop, the original version of it lives in that digital world, right? We can print it out on a piece of paper, but originally it was created on the laptop, right? So
Yeah.
or on the PC or whatever it is, whatever device it is that was used, right? So that is then, so somebody else can screenshot it, of course, but you could also take a picture of any painting in any gallery. It doesn't mean that you own it, and it doesn't prove that you own it. You just have an image, you just have a picture of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Also, what I noticed that NFTs started booming when COVID-19 hit the world and everything, and that's when everybody, like youngsters, really started getting very interested in this NFTs. So, what do you think? Like, has it really helped people out? Especially during the lockdown situation, and even right now. What's the current status of it? How do you see it in the future?
I think with a lot of new trends, there's always the sort of initial hype where it's making the news, it's all over social media, it's all over the internet, everyone's talking about it, and everyone wants to sort of get involved, but none of us really fully understand it and understand the uses of it. And this, sort of happened with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as well, where at the time of the hype, a lot of people sort of maybe have jumped into it. A lot of people I'm sure, have made a lot of good money from it. But sometimes maybe people have sort of tried to get in on it in any way that they can, and invested in things that ultimately aren't great investments. So I'm sure that some people have also lost out, and they will tell you that it didn't work out for them. But I think after that initial hype of a new trend, it sort of stabilizes a little bit, and people that are really interested in understanding the use cases of it and the utilities of it sort of stick around and they research it more, and the technology also develops. And during that phase and after that is when the the true value of it will sort of come to light, and the people who can really offer value and find value in that space will stay in that space. So as I mentioned earlier, I was speaking about ownership, and I was speaking about making royalties and stuff like that from your artwork, and also being able to showcase your art and not have to really pay large commissions to galleries or anything like that. I think like during the pandemic, a lot of us have become so much more attached to, the social media, the digital world, the virtual world, and stuff like that. And some of us have become completely sort of submerged in it, right? Wrongfully so, but that's sort of a glimpse into what the future will look like. The future is there's going to be so many things that we do completely digitally, assets that we probably own digitally. And NFTs are sort of, have become a gateway into that sort of world for a lot of people. So I think for us as Muslims, for us as artists, for us as young people, we can't sort of just bury our head in the sand and pretend that the world isn't going in a specific direction, because the world is going in that direction, right? It's going in that digital virtual direction. So how do we ensure that we have a strong presence in that world? How do we ensure that we are represented there, right? Because if everyone today sort of, let's say the world shut down, right, in terms of the actual sort of, like physical world and going outside and stuff, and everyone became completely delved into this sort of virtual world with VR headsets and living entirely virtually, then what happens to Islam, right? What happens to our spirituality? What happens to the Muslims, right? So how do we ensure that whilst this sort of transitioning is happening, like going back to what we were speaking about, we preserve cultures and we preserve religions? It sounds crazy, like, right, trying to preserve religious faith in a digital world, but this is what you're doing right now, right? This is digital. This is an interview that many years ago, this is not, a way that people would have ever envisioned that people discuss and speak about Islamic topics and topics that affect their youth and stuff like that, right? But we're living in this digital world now, and Islam is present in that digital world. So it's just another way for it to sort of continue on.
Yeah. In fact, this leads us to our next question that I'm sure a lot of people would have questions on, whether NFT is allowed Islamically, what does the Sharia say about this? There are a lot of concepts and questions right now. So when I was sort of researching, and when I looked up, it said that it is permissible. For example, if it's like a calligraphy or inanimate objects, landscapes, and abstract phenomena, then it's permissible. So what are your views on that?
I can't really speak on what's permissible and not permissible. I think that's down to the scholars to sort of decide. But the only thing I would say is that it would require for the scholars to really understand, how it works, what it does, what it implies, and the technology behind it. And then it's down to them, and then using their ijtihad. But that's all I can say on the permissibility of it, really.
Exactly. Because it is still a developing concept, as I said, and so there is a difference of opinion among scholars as well. Yeah. So okay, now let's now also talk about your videography skills. So for those of you who don't know, Ibrahim has great experience working behind the camera and behind the scenes and editing and in post-production. Like, he's just a genius, like a lot of talent. I've seen it myself. And must I mention the two famous projects that are titled as Earth's Paradise, in which Brother Yusuf Ali Okera and Brother Rashid Haider have performed, is shot by Ibrahim. And also the latest one, which was released on the 13th of Rajab, Ali Jaisa Mola, again performed by Brother Yusuf Ali Okera, Brother Abbas Haider Lalji, and Brother Sayyid Nisam Ali Mehdi. So Ibrahim, let us have a look at these videos first, and then we're going to talk a little about it.
Ya Hussein, I remain here without walking. Ya Hussein, in the footsteps of the orphans. Ya Hussein, and my soul is in darkness. Ya Hussein, oh Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, oh Ya Hussein. Ya Aba Abdillah, Ya Hussein, Ya Aba Abdillah, Ya Hussein, Ya Aba Abdillah, Ya Hussein.
पिसरे है दरे कर्रार तू मेरा सैयदो सरदार और मैं हूँ तेरा बंदा या हुसैन मैंने इस जीस्त में मौला और कुछ भी नहीं चाहा इश्क जो मिल गया तेरा या हुसैन या हुसैन
ज़चा खाना तुझे सा ऐ घर किबरिया का नहीं था नहीं है कभी भी न होगा दो आलम में मेरे अली जैसा मौला नहीं था नहीं है कभी भी न होगा.
Okay, so Ibrahim, these videos have really like come out so amazing. Like you've literally mastered them. So what was the concept and the idea? How do you come up with all this like cinematography and this concept, the mise en scène and everything? Like, do you like? Does it just happen? Is it like a natural instinct, or do you like plan it out? The location and everything.
First of all, no, thank you, Alhamdulillah. I appreciate your kind words about the videos, and we put a lot of work and effort into them and time into them. So I'm glad that people like and enjoy them. It's a bit of both, really. So one thing that I always speak about in the conversations that I have, with different people is that as Muslims in general, right, we need to sort of ensure that all of the work that we're putting out there into the world, the artwork and the creativity that we're putting out there into the world is of a really high quality. Because in the times when sort of, I guess, Islam as a faith was, at its sort of highest growth rate and had its, like the most significant influence over the world, the artwork and, the poetry, the paintings, the architecture that has come out from the Muslim world has been on some of the best quality ever, universally, not only within the Muslim world, right? So I believe that we all have a responsibility now that any artwork that we put out there in the name of the Ahlul Bayt, in the name of Islam, in the name of Allah, that we really try to make this something that is universally one of, can universally stand up against any piece of artwork, any poetry, right? Whatever is considered, whoever is considered the greatest poet of the time, not only in the Muslim world, because a lot of the times we appreciate things because, they have an Islamic message. But if we were to look at them creatively or just, for example, poetically, does it stand up against the some of the best work that's out there? So any of the work that I do, I really try to perfect it. As for the process of shooting the video, it's a bit of both, because you sort of try to plan as much as you can, but Allah is the best of planners, of course. So you may plan specific locations and specific shots, but on the day, it's like the weather's not good, or the lighting is not good, or X, Y, and Z. There's always going to be some obstacles and challenges that arise, and you sort of just have to work around it, and you have to be able to improvise there and then. If you see the videos, I haven't tried to make any like overly complex sort of storyline or concept or anything like that. I'm really sort of just focusing on the videography of it and the editing of it and making sure that it looks quite cinematic and quite clean. So that was the idea.
Yeah, I saw it. It was like simple and very elegant and very crisp and clean. And you can tell like your focus is there. Like it stands out, So it's really amazing, mashallah. Now,
Alhamdulillah.
Can you also tell us? I know that you rap also. So and you're a poet. Yeah, you're a spoken word artist. So how do you incorporate your poetry into rap? Because that is also a skill.
Being lighter is nicer. It's a thing we seem to accept. But again, I seem to be skipping ahead. And times have changed. We can go further back to the times of Garvey, or a little less to the rise of the Black Panther Party. But let's flip the page and go back to when Malcolm and Martin tried to make us see that your dark skin was a beautiful gene before racism was paintbrushed under the carpet. So it was after a long period that the youth were asleep that Martin had a vision, and of course it was a beautiful dream. But Malcolm reminded us that if you have to, then you must shoot to be free. And they call that crude and extreme.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So rap, like in itself, it is poetry, right? If you take away the instrumental, you take away the beat, and you slow it down, that's all it is. It's poetry. The origins of it, or the way it started off, you know, in America, the black community speaking about the political struggles that they were facing, the social justice issues that they were facing, and this is where the roots of it lie. But in today's world, like in terms of like, you know, mainstream rap and mainstream music in general, it is sort of more used as a way to distract us and to numb us from, you know, like really connecting with people or connecting with the things that happen in the world at the moment and connecting with ourselves. So for me, I just sort of, it's something that I've you know, always been like interested in, sort of found that I have a bit of a talent for. So I thought that it was important to utilize it in a way where I can have a voice, speak about God consciousness, spirituality, speak about the issues that affect us here in the West and the issues that affect people, the struggles and the oppression that is being faced all over the world. But in terms of the skill aspect of it, like with all, so we've spoken today about, you know, digital artwork, traditional artwork like paintings and stuff like that, and poetry and video editing and things like that. I say alhamdulillah that, you know, like I can do quite a few different things, but one thing that I think that we should all sort of, maybe if you have it, right, if you have an intrigue for creative things, or if you have a curiosity, that you should always explore that curiosity and try to find new ways of doing things and pick up new skills, and try to perfect it as much as you can with what you're working on.
Definitely. I absolutely agree with you. Like when it comes to creativity, you know, it's like a stream of knowledge as well. You know, you're also educating yourself, you're learning a lot of things. It's like a journey, you know, you're maturing yourself. So the way you mentioned, for example, when you were shooting these videos of the Nohas and Mankabats and all of that. So, you know, there are some places where you need to just improvise, right? So that's the time when, you know, things click you. Okay, I can do this. I can work things this way out. Yeah, I can figure things the other way around. So it's like a process. It's a really nice process. Okay, so we have one more question for you. And that is that when you do all of this, do you face any challenges by the society? And if you do, how do you overcome them?
To an extent, but alhamdulillah, not so much. I think the only thing that would probably likely cause like the most challenges from people, especially in the Muslim community, is, you know, like you do rap, how much instruments do you use, things like that, X, Y, and Z. That is I think that's the only thing that can possibly cause, you know, a bit of friction. But to be fair, I haven't had that many. Obviously, you would always get people that say, oh, you know, isn't what you like, isn't that haram, or shouldn't you like do it like this or do it like that? You always get like a bit of that. But I think, you know, people, because of the way that I carry myself and the subjects that I speak about, the topics that I speak about, I think most people understand that this is sort of the world that we live in now. And this is the show is called Youth Matters, and these are the things that impact the youth, and there are specific ways that you can get through to the youth and specific ways that you can connect and relate to the youth, especially when, you know, yeah, I'm 28 now. I'm not sure if I'm still a youth, but, you know, like you these are the people that you've come up with, and this is the culture that you've adapted. So how do you sort of, you know, merge it with your spirituality and ensure that, you know, there's little conflict there. So yeah, like I haven't had that much, you know. And then, like as you said, when it comes to like cryptos and NFTs and stuff like that, I guess there's still a lot of it's still developing. People are still understanding, you know, what they are and how they work. So of course, as you said, there will always be different parts of the community or different scholars that have differences of opinion. I think cryptocurrencies are banned in Indonesia. So when I posted when I posted the artwork of the hats, and it had one of the hats in there that they wear quite a lot in Indonesia. But at the end, I spoke about possibly turning the collection into NFT. So a lot of people are like, oh, a lot of people from Indonesia were saying, cryptocurrencies are haram, NFTs are haram. How could you sort of want to turn this, Muslim inspired illustration into an NFT? But for me personally, like, I know as long as, we always pray that we keep our intentions pure, and we always pray that, God sort of purifies us, purifies our intention, and puts sort of blessings in what we do, then we shouldn't worry too much about you. There's no way that you will ever please everyone with everything you do. So the only person you should aim to please is God.
Very well agreed. I absolutely agree with you. It all depends on your intentions. And thank you so much for sharing your very insightful points with us on today's program. And I think what I really liked about today's program is that, you're someone who's into NFTs, and because we're talking about NFTs, so, people will be able to connect a lot more with today's topic and understand it better from your perspective. And I really thank you for sharing about your journey and so many things we've talked about. I really thank you so much for joining today's program, and I hope that you enjoyed as well.
I really did. Thank you for having me. And it's great work that you're doing with the show as well.
Thank you so much. So thank you, viewers, for watching today's program. And I hope that you guys benefited from today's program, because this, Youth Matters is about, delving into such topics that are informative and, that are current, right? So we need to talk about what's happening around the world, what's latest. Let's keep up with the current, news and updates. And I thought that this was like a really important topic that's on fire right now. It's literally everywhere on, online and internet. So we need to have that education and information. Thank you for watching today's program. This is your host, Sakina Habib, signing off. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.